Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family. Optaanalyst, as we all know, have just dropped their UEFA Champions League winners predictions for 2025-2026 season. And it's interesting, at least. I've already semi-reacted to Twitter. So let's do a full reaction here on YouTube. Right here, I think this is the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 5th. Yeah, 5th. Yeah, something like that. So you got Benfica at 1.7%. We don't really care. Benfica, they're being stronger Benfica sides. I would probably maybe even put a Dortmund ahead of them, or maybe a Monaco ahead of Benfica. So maybe they're a little bit high. You know, Benfica aren't that strong as they used to be. Newcastle in third spot. Premier League side have a strong squad. Don't see them. Obviously 3% only. But are they on the same level as Inter Milan? Champions League experience, Inter Milan. I don't think Inter Milan will win the UCL. But I mean, I'm looking at least at quarters. So this is something you will already notice. The hype of the Premier League. Because Optaanalyst is supposed to be an AI. Alright? It's not personal opinion. There's absolutely no bias. They're just strictly looking at football numbers and coming to these conclusions. And I don't really understand how they come to some of these conclusions. Bayern München at 4.4%. That low? I think Bayern München have a really strong squad. And I think their main biggest weakness is if one of the big players get injured. But I mean, you can say that for every single team. There was just a bit unfortunate last season with Musiala, Upamecano, and Alphonso Davies all out for I think both interlegs, or at least one of them. But Bayern should be higher than 4%. You're looking at Chelsea. 7%. Look, Chelsea beat us in the Club World Cup, fair and square. Chelsea won the entire tournament, fair and square. Are one of the best Premier League sides, fair and square. But this is their first time in the UEFA Champions League since 2021. 7%. 7% ahead of Real Madrid and FC Bayern München. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. How are they coming to these conclusions? Real Madrid at 5.8. You know what? Madrid should be a bit lower than usual. They had a really poor last season. Yes, they made new signings. Yes, Xabi Alonso has come in, but it's a lot of adaptation. Can Madrid be there? So I don't know how much Madrid was last season. I think they were definitely the favorites going into the UCL. But it's less about the points, because I mean, here are just numbers. It's the numbers compared to other teams. So Chelsea, they're saying, have a higher chance of winning the UEFA Champions League than Real Madrid and Bayern München. Already doesn't make any sense. And now I think this is the fifth spot. Barcelona 8.4 spot. Barcelona, the team that reached the UEFA Champions League semi-final last season. I think the team that scored the most goals in the UEFA Champions League last season. The team that won the domestic treble has an 8.4%. Yes, they lost Inigo Martinez. But that's it. They're acting like Yamal, Rafinha, Leva all injured for the rest of the season. 8.4%. 8.4%. Again, what stats are Optaanalyst looking at? And that's why I don't really believe Optaanalyst, FootMob, SofaScore, all of these supposed stat AI sites. I don't believe it's just AI and stats. I believe there is bias inside of this institution. Because there seems to be a bias against the non-Premier League teams, but a bias for the Premier League teams. 8.4 Barca. Let's see the teams ahead of it. Next up is City 8.4. How is Manchester City and FC Barcelona on the same percentage? How is City higher than Real Madrid? Real Madrid were garbage last season, but City were worse. How are they higher than Bayern München? And even Chelsea. Like, if we're going to discuss Prem bias, how is City ahead of Chelsea? I don't understand. Are they looking at UCL experience? Are they looking at form in the last 3-4 months? What Optaanalysts are actually looking at? After that, we got PSG. Very happy PSG should be high here. We should be the favorites. But we're not. And as you can see down here, there are 2 dots ahead of us. 2 teams have a higher likelihood than PSG to win. How are Paris Saint-Germain not favorites? How are Paris Saint-Germain not favorites? Yes, Dembele just got in the... I think this was probably even made maybe before the injuries, and he's just out for the group stages. Did we lose out on any top player? Do we have some? Is Lucho out for the rest of the season? Has the meteorite hit the earth? Why is PSG only 12.1%? And now we'll get to see the teams ahead of us. Arsenal at 16%. PSG beat Arsenal convincingly in the Champions League, UEFA Champions League semi-final. beat them in both games. Arsenal signed Gyökeres, Zubimendi, Mosquera, Nergard, Eze, some good signings. And that automatically makes them a higher likelihood of winning against PSG. I mean, haven't we watched Arsenal this season? Because they're definitely not going off stats this season. I saw a stat. Least XG created in the Premier League. Sunderland 20th, 19th place Arsenal. Actually, this was only open play. So no set piece garbages. Arsenal is a little bit better than the shit side they were last season. 16%. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And that's why these Opta analysts, I do think there is heavy bias inside. I don't think this is AI. I don't think this is just pure numbers. I don't think so. Because you cannot go to any sane person and tell him that Arsenal have a higher likelihood of winning the UEFA Champions League than Paris Saint-Germain. And this is, I'm not going to make the argument that people had against PSG before. Oh, Arsenal have never won the UCL. How are they going to win the UCL? I mean, it just is such a illogical, ecological, stupid-ass equation. Arsenal can win the UEFA Champions League next season. I don't actually have them in my top 5. Even before we go to the first spot, I can let you know. I have PSG, FC Barcelona, Liverpool, Bayern, Real Madrid. But towards the end, you can change around. Even in the beginning, if you want to put Barca maybe ahead of PSG, we 1-1, maybe they're more motivated. How you want to do it. So you can put, Arsenal is in the group here. With Madrid, you can put Chelsea there as well. Maybe Atletico Madrid. I mean, Atletico Madrid had an insane transfer window. And they're not... I've just noticed that. Atletico Madrid spent like 200 million. I mean, barely lost to Madrid in the Champions League in penalties. Came third in La Liga. Copa del Rey semi-final. And they're not even on the list. With Benfica, Newcastle, Inter Milan ahead of them. But back to what I was saying. Arsenal have a chance to win the Champions League. But it's not 16%. They don't even have a 16%. And first place, if you didn't know, it was Liverpool, 20.4%. Just the Premier League glazing is absolutely disgusting. I mean, according to these people, Premier League 1, Premier League 2, Premier League 3. So in the top 5, there are 3 Premier League teams. And I've said this before. Maximum 1 Premier League team will reach the Champions League semi-final, just like last season with Arsenal, who was a bit fugazi. Like, the hype, when you hear people talk about the Prem, and these numbers and everything, you would think, oh my God, this is the best league in the world that's dominating everything. It's not. Yes, the Premier League is dominating the Premier League. More money, bigger transfers. But in the UEFA Champions League, the competition, the best football competition, football club competition, where you can prove yourself as the best, they don't do that. Even at the Club World Cup, Chelsea were great, but they were the only good team. I mean, it was just them and City. But the hype of the Premier League is genuinely disgusting. And I'm telling you, these Opta analysts, there is 100% Premier League bias. 100%. Liverpool and Arsenal ahead of PSG. That means Arsenal is ahead of Barca, Liverpool ahead of Barca, and City on the same as Barca, ahead of Madrid, Chelsea. I mean, this is genuinely... And you know what? What we will do is actually this. We'll do this. Look, this is FBRF, Big 5 European leagues, because some of those teams weren't that good in the UCL or didn't even play. We'll just take a look at the best squad stats in Europe's top 5 leagues. All right? Optaanalyst, it's a stats website. They come to their conclusion through stats. Let's see. So, goals per 90, I guess that's a stat that shows how good you are. You got Bayern, you got PSG, you got Barca, you got Liverpool. So you got all of these teams from last season. And yes, I know this is last season and some of these teams have made a lot of signings, but a lot of signing doesn't mean you're going to be great. I mean, I remember when we bought Ramos, Hakimi, Donnarumma, Messi, Wijnaldum, Nuno Mendes. We got knocked out in the round of 16. Once the year before, we got knocked out in the semi. So I do think form during the past season has way more a correlation to how big of a Champions League favorite you are for next season. So you got Bayern, who are now in the top 5. You got PSG, who were 3rd, and Barca, who were tied 4th place. And then you got Liverpool. Let's take a look... Another XG, you know, similar stat. PSG, Barca, Bayern, Liverpool. Madrid down here. City, Chelsea down here. Progressive carries. I mean, I don't think that's that important to look at. We can look at shock rating actions. I think that's a very good one to look at. Shock rating actions per 90. Bayern München 1st, PSG 2nd, Barca 3rd, Madrid 4th, Liverpool 5th. Goal creating actions, Bayern, PSG, Barca, Liverpool. So... To end all of this garbageness, Optaanalyst have nothing to do with stats and numbers. That's what they want to tell everyone. We come to our conclusions through stats and numbers. There's no bias here, so you cannot hate on us. But it's clear Premier League bias here right here. The stats prove that the Premier League teams are not the best teams. The Champions League last season proved that the Premier Leagues are not the best teams. So far this season, all of these teams have been a question mark over them, these Premier League teams. So I have absolutely zero clue how they came to this conclusion. I'm going to end it with my ranking as I mentioned. I'll put PSG first. I'll put FC Barcelona second. I'm going to put Liverpool third. All of them are in the top 5. So I guess that's something correct from the Optaanalyst. And after that, I would do Bayern and Madrid. More for that UCL heritage experience. Chelsea, first time in a while. City were really poor and they have to push in the Premier League as well. But City just don't look that strong. Arsenal, look, if anyone wants to put Arsenal ahead of Madrid, I don't have the biggest problem with that. If anyone wants to put Bayern, Arsenal are going to face Bayern this season. That's a game I'm actually excited to watch, Bayern versus Arsenal. But even Bayern, Arsenal, if you want to put them even. But putting Arsenal above Paris Saint-Germain, FC Barcelona is an absolute disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. But that's been it. Let me know in the comments down below. What's your top 5? Or to make it easier, what's your top 3 for the Champions League winners? 1, 2, 3. That's been it from boy PSGINT. Hopefully guys have enjoyed this video. And as usual, allez Paris.